Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Coach and Benway podcast, the weekly Bile episode, the news, commentary, response, reaction, call it what you will. This is going to be new and interesting, largely because I have been balls deep, if not deeper, in project work for a client, literally traveled across the country, had no chance to really pay attention to the news other than faint passings for the past week, literally since Sunday. So I am basically Rip Van Winkle in this situation. I literally have only vague notions of what's going on.
Yeah, he has
Coach
vague
is going to educate me.
Yeah, vague notions because it's not true. He wasn't working. He was just stoned. You know, I saw him. I saw the video. He was stoned out of his gourd. I mean, listening to him. Doesn't he sound like a stoned man? Anyway, so in this episode, we're going to be talking about the things that happened this week. And I'll start off right off the bat. There were a number of things that were funny as hell. And the first thing was, as far as I'm concerned, my list here is that Facebook deplatformed the walk away guy for mentioning InfoWars. You know, the guy who came up with the hashtag walk away, you know, basically
from the Democratic Party.
Yeah. They deplatformed him. They shut down his page. And it had like 1 million plus subscribers or followers or whatever. I don't know what the term is for Facebook because I don't have Facebook. But yeah, they deplatformed him. And on the other hand, Twitter refused to promote tweets with the term illegal alien, in them. You know, the paid promotions, Twitter will not do it, even though the term illegal alien is, of course, a legal term used by the Supreme Court. It's not like some, you know, racist slur. It's a legal term. It's a okay. And on top of that, the people who wanted to use the term are pro-illegal aliens, pro-illegal immigrants, and they were not allowed to use it. And YouTube bans all videos supporting or favorable to the Assad regime in Syria. Sort of like playing some you know, like a little bit of you know, electioneering, right?
Remind me again which Asian country dictates terms to Google and Facebook about what appears in their site. It's coming. It starts with a China, ends with a China.
Yeah. Because Google is having some other trouble too because a video came out of their upper echelon right after the election. And I swear to God, it was basically a cry-in. It was one of these all hands on deck meetings, right?
Yeah, they have them. I think they have them every week.
Oh my God. And they're standing there and they're like having, you know, the girl or the pudgy thing that was girl-like who screamed in agony when Trump was sworn in and everybody laughed and there was a good meme out of it and all that. Okay, it was basically that, but corporate types. I mean, it was funny as fuck. I mean, I was just blown away.
I'm going to cheat a little bit. This one I actually did saw. I saw it when I was waiting for my plane, or at least part of it. Yeah. And it was funny going through that, how they said, I know everybody's uncomfortable right now and everybody just needs a hug and this, that, and the other. And it was funny. You know what? I thought to myself, you know, if I were a conservative in the crowd, or if this was a legitimate company that didn't have a bias, they would have brought up a conservative or a Trump voter on there to speak and have their position. If, let's say for sake of argument, I was there, I would have gotten up and I would have said this. I said, look, I understand you're uncomfortable. You're feeling like everybody in the world's against you. You feel like you're somehow out of place with society and you're at risk for whatever reason in being so. What you've just described is what it feels like to be a conservative in the middle of Google.
Yeah.
And what it's been feeling like to be that way in Silicon Valley in general.
Well said.
For the past year. Let's have a discussion about this.
Preach it. Yeah, I totally agree. Because that's the thing about these leftists in general, that they project so hard. They're basically, it's projection of what they realize that they are doing to other people and are afraid will eventually be flipped on them. I mean, look, you know, I mentioned these 3 items or 4 items with the Google meltdown thing. And nobody in their right mind can say that these companies are not influencing the elections. And it's coming out, you know, little by little, the awareness, the generalized awareness that Google has been manipulating the American election. And that's a serious thing. You know, I mean...
Well, it's hard to see that video and not think to yourself, even if they were aware of it or not, how could they not be affecting opinions they're on. I mean, like, if they literally think the election of Donald Trump is going to result in them all dying,
Yeah.
which is basically half a step away from what they were saying, then, there's really little hope for the notion that these guys are going to come to their senses. It's, like the few weeks ago when Jack said, we clearly have a bias, but it's not as if it influences us. Well, the notion of bias is that it doesn't matter whether you think it influences you or not.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, the issue is that they say, well, the algorithm is not influenced by bias. Bullshit, because the people building the algorithm, right? They insert their bias insofar as what topics or what items they find important.
These are people who think they're scientific, right? I mean, do they even recognize why we do things like a double-blind test?
Yeah, I don't think that they do. Yeah,
exactly. So for those not familiar with the term, all double-blind means is that when you're doing some sort of test, be it sociological or scientific otherwise, on someone, it isn't just that the person you're testing doesn't know what you're doing. It's like the placebo. Did they give them a real pill? Did they give them nothing? They don't know. But not only that, the person administering the test doesn't know what they're testing, really. So all notions of a chance of you kind of trying to influence the outcome, whether you think so or not, is trying to be avoided. These guys are acting like that doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly right. They're acting as if it's the scientists are above it and that they can know what pill they're giving, but it's not going to influence their actions or the way they behave. You're exactly right. And there's nothing more really to be said about these people. And I think that what's happening is that this notion that these very large media companies, number one, control the public space where you can talk, and number two, have a clear bias, that's percolating. That's percolating through the wider society, and I think that people are becoming more and more upset about it. I'm talking about the normies. The normies are waking up. Now, it will come to a point where if they don't, straighten up and fly right, there'll be too much push for regulation. And I actually think that this might be closer than anybody suspects, because I think it might be just like one or two triggers. Because, Andrew Anglin, sure, let's ban him and deplatform him across all of the internet because, he's a Nazi. He's a real Nazi. He thinks that Nazism is a good thing. But Alex Jones, you're pushing it. Who's going to be the next one? And I think that next one, that might blow the lid off this whole thing. I mean, I can't think of somebody offhand, but you see what I'm saying?
I know exactly the type of person who, if they banned, it would fuck them royally. And it's the people on the right who are already half of their cheerleaders because they have the stupid notion, well, it's private company, so it's okay. Yeah. The National Reviews of the world, the Jonah Goldbergs of the world, the Ben Shapiro's. I don't think they'd be stupid enough to do it. But let's say they were stupid enough. Let's say they were stupid enough to ban National Review or Ben Shapiro. All the little, people of a certain persuasion would suddenly band together and say, it's not right when you do it against us. That's what it'd have to take, I think. But because I think these companies are smart enough to know not to do that, these little guys will always be their standby cheerleaders because it's conservatism. They win when their more radical, interesting voices are shut up, and it's all just left to these pukes who are easily ignored.
Yeah, and so that was like my first general topic, the social media shit. And to that, I was going to pivot with the Article 11 and 13 that passed in the EU. And it passed to cheers from people who don't know what the fuck they're doing, right? Basically, Article 13 and Article 11 that was passed by the European Parliament, it basically stipulates that essentially copyrighted work cannot be transmitted without essentially paying the person who created that copyrighted work. And sure, like Paul McCartney loved this shit, Disney loved this shit, but everybody else and all the meme masters hated it. And so, it passed with flying colors. And, now people are saying that, they're making the joke that the people in the EU are going to have to start, going overseas to get their memes, And it's funny on the one hand, but it's actually kind of serious because the Article 11 and 13 will throttle the internet very badly. And the only people who will benefit will be people who create their entire work their own, okay? I mean, like in my case, for example, on my videos and the music that I write for my videos, doesn't matter because I write it all, I do it all, I shoot it all. I rarely if ever, use copyrighted material. Precisely because I don't want to have the hassle of a DMCA strike. And it bothers me intrinsically that if I get a DMCA and the piece I did starts generating revenue for some other guy, it just drives me up the wall to think that my work winds up benefiting somebody else. So I make sure never to include copyright work. But most people aren't like that. Most people who are creating content on the internet just grab shit from wherever and just throw it up and to make some interesting content. And that's a shame.
How is the EU going to even enforce this?
That's the other problem. They have these insane standards, like Jean-Claude Juncker, the European Union commissioner, dictator. That's what it is. I don't know why they call him commissioner, because he is the dictator. He says that Facebook has to take it down in 1 hour. Okay, I mean, all these social media platforms have to take down material that violates this in 1 hour. He has no fucking idea of the logistics of such a goal. It would be impossible to do it in 1 hour. There's just not enough people in the world to police these platforms that quickly. He's just crazy.
I'm assuming then that they would fine, or in theory, fine Facebook for a deviation,
or like a lot of money. Of course.
Yeah. So basically, Juncker's what he's hoping on is that this regulatory ruling will force Facebook to be efficient about self-censorship, essentially.
Well, no, what they're really hoping for, it seems clear to me and to most observers, although it's not articulated quite like this, that they're hoping to squeeze out everybody except quote-unquote compliant news producers, like CNN, like the establishment media. They only want them to be producing content and uploading it onto the internet. They want everything to be a safe space on the internet. That's the whole point of it. And this Article 11 and 13, it seems as if it's just a European Union problem. No. This shit is going to affect all.
But this is basically this is what the digital privacy rights that was going on. The other EU legislation was, I forgot what it was called a few years ago. I've been in my own business life. We've been talking about this. We know that because the European Union's regulations are very stringent within their own world, you can't carve out the part of the platform that just deals with the European Union.
No.
If the rules affect them, they affect everyone. In other words, the European Union is effectively dictating policy to the world.
Exactly.
At this point.
Exactly. Because they're a large enough market on the internet that, they can basically do it. Sort of like California and car emission standards. They can say whatever they want. California can dictate any terms that they want, and the car industry has to follow them because they're such a big market. They're big enough that they control the world, basically. The Europeans figured that out insofar as the internet. And so the establishment media loves this shit because it benefits them. The big tech companies, the FANGs, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Google, they're all against it. They're all against it because it's just going to be a fucking hassle for them. But they'll go along with it because what they'll probably wind up doing, if I had to guess, is that they'll just do like blanket sweeps, just blanket sweeps of material and just trash it. And this isn't going to be just it's also going to be for hosting platforms. For hosting platforms that are hosting, it will migrate to those hosting platforms because it'll just be easier for them to just blanket censor everybody. I think it's a horrible mistake, but
Well, as per usual, I think the EU will totter around and hopefully eventually break its britches. It's not surprising to me that the EU plays this game when precisely the likes of Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Austria, and Italy seem to become a solid block now against some of the more egregious machinations. I vaguely remember in the news today, I think they tried to censor Oberon. Not censor Oberon, but you know what I mean.
Censure Hungary. Yeah. And that's stupid. They want to trigger Article 7. They actually want to do it. Okay, for those of you who don't know, Article 7 is this article, and it's important to note that all 27 members of the European Union have to vote on it, except, of course, the country that's being censured. And with this censure, this Article 7 gets triggered. What happens is that the country loses its right to vote in the European Union. It basically becomes a hostage to the European Union. Okay? It's the nuclear option, right? So here's the thing. You see, I've got two toddlers, right? and I'm stealing this from somebody else that I read around there. I forget who. But I'm saying up front, I'm stealing this metaphor because it was a good metaphor. See, I got a couple of toddlers. And the thing is, see, I always tell them, don't do that, or I'm going to be so mad at you. And, and of course they do it. And of course I back off because I'm not going to lose my shit over them doing whatever, playing with water or whatever, crayoning the wall or some shit like that, right? Of course not, because, the damage would be far worse than the trivial transgression, right? And so, I never go to the nuclear option because that's why they call it the nuclear option. It destroys everything. These stupid fucks, right? They'd been threatening Hungary with censure over them not taking on migrants, right? And now they're actually going to do it, okay? That's their nuclear option over something that is, in the scheme of things, relatively trivial. It is more important to keep Hungary within the union and have the relationship relatively, smooth than to do Article 7 and potentially kick them out of the union. But these imbeciles are going to do it. They are so locked in. And on top of that, of course, in the rest of Europe, the European leaders across the board are having to walk back the whole immigration craziness because the people aren't liking it, because the people are getting sick and tired of their natives getting knifed to death by these fucking immigrants who pretend to be 12 years old when they have like a beard and they talk like James Earl Jones. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
well, except in Sweden, apparently they thought it's all okay.
No, in Sweden also they're not going so good. The election results weren't good. Okay,
well, they were not as bad as I thought, but they were certainly not good. I mean, from what I gathered, the leading party still was more or less the largest or the second largest, and pretty much paired off with the centrist right. In other words, the weaklings.
Yeah, exactly.
But at least the far right got big enough to where I don't think they're going to make a stable government anytime soon. So that's good, I suppose.
Yeah, that is, and the thing is, you see, it's going to be an incremental thing. The other thing, of course, is that AfD in Germany, the hard right party, they're gaining ground. They're becoming the second largest party in the country. Okay. And Merkel is, like it or not, she's going to have to break bread with them and come to some sort of agreement. And I know for a fact that she's crazy about not doing that. I mean, she hates them. She thinks that they're literal Nazis. And look, here's the thing. You go around Europe and you see the leaders and the leaders who have children. And the thing is, you see Angela Merkel, you see Macron, you see Theresa May. They don't have children of their own. They don't have skin in the game. They don't have a worry about the future. They're just worried about the next election. So they don't care. So they are willing to go this route, which is insane. There was this ad that everybody was talking about on Twitter and stuff. It was an NHS ad that basically said, it showed like a woman's high-heeled shoes and makeup and a pacifier, and it was like saying, which do you prefer? And then the thing was like below was like something along the lines of make sure you're taking contraceptives or something like that. I mean, the governments are actively encouraging childlessness among the native population and importing this foreign population, which is incredibly destabilizing and is causing all kinds of problems. And they are. This is the official policy of these countries.
But isn't it more fun having high heels and demeaning yourself than to have a child? I mean, isn't that just logically been proven already?
Clearly. I mean, no. And also for the guys, it was like he was a video game controller. It was a video game controller.
Of course it was.
Christ.
Of course it was.
Oh man. I mean, I saw that.
But what's funny when they say, like, I know they were saying like you have to choose between the video game controller and the pacifier, and I thought to myself, isn't the video game controller enough of a contraception? Aren't you, if you're going to play the video game controller all the time, isn't the odds of you going out on a date probably nil? I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry, fam.
I think so too. Look, I think they're all fucking crazy. I mean, the Europeans are fucking nuts. They deserve to lose their goddamn continent. They deserve it because, they don't care about it. They don't care about their fucking culture. And the EU is behaving in a dictatorial manner because it is a dictatorship. It's a dictatorship of bureaucrats. And that's the thing. The people who put together the whole European Union were basically bureaucrats in crappy little nations who wanted to be more powerful than they could ever be in their home country. And so they set up this European Union, and it's a dictatorship. Okay, it's got the commission and the council, and
these are the same basic types of people that Balzac and Charles Dickens wrote about.
yeah,
Both authors from the 19th century knew how a bureaucrat operated in their dusty little fucking, hidden rooms. Love the fact that things are labyrinthian and complex because there's power to that. I recommend to everybody read Max Weber's take on bureaucracy. Still the most intelligent take on that matter.
Which one is that?
You'll ever read. Max Weber. I forget which book it is. I have one of his general collections on.
Max Weber?
Max Weber, yeah. The man who came up with the idea of the Protestant work ethic.
Okay.
He's very smart on bureaucracy. Recommend that.
Okay,
I'll try. Dry 19th century academia or early 20th century, but
Yeah, I'll try to leave a link there to the principal work in the description. So yeah, I mean, look, it's just so frustrating because you and I are European, of European descent, culturally. All of our baggage comes from Western Europe. And we're watching as the current leadership of Western Europe just throws away the inheritance that belongs to all of us. And they're just throwing it away. Yeah, I mean, it's just so goddamn depressing. So anyway, moving on to topics. Here's something funny. Serena Williams, I just discovered, is the victim of racism and sexism. I'd never realized this. She has been victimized by racism and sexism, because she threw a on-court tantrum at the finals of the U.S. Open where she was losing, and she threw a very, very bad tantrum.
Would you say she went ape shit?
Oh, yeah. It caused all kinds of funny. I mean, all kinds of funny happened out of this because, like, for instance, some Australian newspaper, they ran a cartoon of Serena Williams, like, jumping up and down on the court. And everybody called it racist. And the Australian paper was like, what the fuck? It's just a cartoon. Okay. And they doubled down and ran it on the cover, of their edition. Because, yeah, it wasn't racist. It was just a cartoon. I mean, come on. Like, you had cartoons of George W. Bush looking like Dumbo the elephant, right? With his big ears, right?
I love when she's like, you use racist for calling me a monkey, as she literally jumps up and down on the court, I'm assuming, flinging shit. Of course. Yeah, of course.
And so
she's the victim.
Yeah, she's the victim. And of course, nobody notices the other times when she would intimidate her opponents, verbally saying things to them, verbally belittling lines people, calling one of them that she's ugly on the inside or some shit like that. I'm just nasty shit on court in the middle of match play, right? And we're supposed to take that, see? And somebody's pointing out, eventually there will be different rules in sports depending on the color of your skin. And to tell you the truth, I think so. I think that there will come a time that if you're a black person, you will have more favorable treatment on in a sporting event than if you're a white contestant. And the ultimate irony is that her opponent was this half Haitian, half Japanese girl, right? Who won, right? That's why Serena Williams threw the tantrum, right?
Half Haitian, half Japanese. Is she very efficient at starving?
That's a nasty crack. No, she was like that's an unusual combination, to tell you the truth. But anyway.
Yeah, what life decisions did the Japanese person have to take in order to get to Haiti and say, I fuck this now?
I don't know. I don't know.
I am just in a mood today. But
it's perfectly fine. But like, I don't know what life decisions happened to make that young woman. But anyway, she's a very, very good tennis player, and she wiped the floor with Serena Williams. And of course, Serena Williams is a 30-something mother. Okay, no way she can be up to snuff athletically. Okay. And here's
exactly.
Here's this, she looked like she was 6'10", this 20-year-old kid, the prime of her athletic ability, right? And wiping the floor with her, I mean, she's a rising star. And of course, it's like, one generation seeds to the next. It's just a natural evolution of things.
It's funny. You seem to think that, hey, they're going to have special rules if you're, white or black. I think it's going to get to the point where if you're of a certain minority color against a white person, you're just automatically going to win. You know what it reminds me of? And it's the ultimate irony of racism, which I think sums up everything. Remember that Saturday Night Live skit from the early '80s with Eddie Murphy?
Oh
Where
yeah.
he says, like, if I paint myself white, what is life like? And he goes on a bus with other white people, and when the one black person leaves, they run out the champagne and the hors d'oeuvres. Everybody's having a good time. He goes to the bank, and like when he says basically, I have no prospects, no collateral, can I get money? And the black bank, man, the retail banking desk guy says, I don't think I can do that. And then the white bank manager sees him and says, sorry, you need to go take your lunch break. He says, sorry, about that. Here, he just starts pulling out like boxes of tens of thousands of dollars. Like, have as much as you want. Pay us back or don't pay us back. That's silly Negro. And that was their idea of what life is like to be a white person. The reality of the situation is that's what their life is like right now.
Yeah.
And, it's funny. I was also, as soon as you started saying about the special rules, I was thinking to myself, well, especially now with the Academy Awards coming up with categories like most popular, best popular movie or some other damn thing, and the fact that they've absorbed intentionally many more minority members of the Academy, that is basically what the Academy is going to be like. That's why Moonlight won. I don't know if you ever even came close to seeing that movie, but it's essentially a waste of your time. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Look, it's the way of it is. No, they walked back that whole most popular movie thing. They're going to think about it.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, and it basically killed it.
We're going to think about it.
Yeah. No, maybe this is not the appropriate course of action at this time, so we're going to reevaluate. Although we're always striving for change and excellence and inclusivity. It's just stupid. Anyway, so Serena had a little meltdown. That was pretty funny. Oh, and something else that's been happening. See, Gian, what was the name of the Canadian broadcaster who got hit with the Me Too thing before the Me Too existed? Gian Goresh.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Okay,
yeah.
Gian Gomeshi. Okay, he's a Canadian. He was a big guy in Canada. I mean, a famous guy. And he had a podcast or a radio show or something like that, and he was a big deal, right? And he, in 2014, he got hit with a bunch of sexual assault allegations that were just, 20 women eventually came forward, right? But all kinds of weird shit, right? I mean, like, for instance, like pulling their hair while they're having sex. I mean, come on. I mean, I don't want to go into the grim details of having sex, but, you do all kinds of crazy shit when you're having sex, right? And so a lot of times you're, like, having sex with somebody, especially somebody for the first time or a one-night stand, and you might do something that they don't particularly like, but it's within the scope of what's reasonable in a sexual encounter, right? Like, for instance, you wind up biting somebody. Yeah, if you did that, when you're just walking down the street and grabbed somebody and bit them, yeah, you'd be arrested. But, you're having a sexual encounter, and sure, that can happen all the time, but it's like not like, it's okay. I don't want to get into it because it just embarrasses me. But the point is, see, all this stuff about poor Gian Gomes, it cost him his job, and he went to trial. And, there are like 20 accusers and shit, and not one conviction. Okay, he beat it all. Yeah, because it's just so much bullshit. Or it was, he said, she said shit that could never be disproven, right? Or proven. And, it's just, okay, so that died, but his career.
And yet his career is still over. Is that right?
Exactly. And so he wrote a piece in the New York Review of Books. And, everybody is having a fucking meltdown because the New York Review of Books is going to come out with a new edition, and I'm trying to find it here. I should have The End of Man, I think it's called, or something like that. And their next edition is going to be called The End of Man, and everybody's having a complete meltdown over this shit, over this particular essay. It's 3,500 words. I glanced through it. It was, reasonably well written. I mean, for that kind of publication, yeah, it was like on par. Nothing to write home about insofar as, quality, but, nothing special. Okay.
Well, it's only the review of books. It's not like writing's very important to them.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, but you know what I mean. I mean, it was that kind of standard.
I'm still shocked. I'm still shocked that the New York Review of Books still exists. To be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah. So anyway, the editor of the Review of Books, Ian Buruma. I don't know the guy.
Yep.
I had never heard of him.
I know Ian. I know him. Okay. I know him.
So anyway, he is in a lot of fucking hot water. Isaac Chotner over at Slate did an interview I mean, interview is too polite a word. It was a fucking grilling. It was like, just really going after him. And the guy, at least on the page, he says, well, he's 66 years old. I didn't even know that. I mean, it came out in the piece. And Buruma said that when they were approving the piece, the Gomeshi piece, there was an editorial board meeting. They had a show of hands. I mean, who wanted it, who didn't. And he said that, there wasn't so much a divide between men and women, but more between ages, which makes a lot of sense, to tell you the truth. It makes a lot of sense because the younger kids have been so indoctrinated with this bullshit. They were probably the ones who wanted it killed, right? And the older people, the older hands probably won the day on that one. So anyway, he ran the piece, and Chotiner was just grilling him over this. And it was just bizarre, okay? I mean, in any other circumstance, people would be like, good get. That's going to be an interesting addition, an interesting edition of the review of books. I mean, the New York Review of Books is sleepy as fuck, right? And so,
well, yeah. Let's put it this way: if the New York Times can get away with hiring all white men deserve whatever comes to them, Sarah John, then clearly Mr. Gomeshi can write his 3,500 word essay for a very sleepy magazine and finally get people to buy that fucking thing.
Yeah.
Eventually, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. And I think we have to remind ourselves, or at least to me, I have to remind myself, at a certain point, when do you just stop listening to the so-called audience bitching? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, I'll tell you what, Nike, for example, this is a few weeks ago when they did their Colin Kaepernick. I'll probably offend some of our fellow conservatives by this, but, frankly, Nike probably made the calculus that, the attention, negative or positive, it's probably going to be a net benefit for our sleepy brand at the end of the day. Because it is. I mean, and so what, you guys, conservatives who haven't probably bought a Nike since 1989 or 1997, suddenly, you not buying it now is different from when you weren't, buying Nike earlier. Yeah. I mean, they don't give a shit. I mean, and if you're a board member, you're thinking, I just want to maximize the revenue here. Yeah. I don't fucking give a shit. Yeah. That's the reality of it.
Also, there's something else. We talked about this the other day about Nike, and I had forgotten altogether, it just slipped my mind, that Under Armour is their big competitor. And Under Armour has been taking a big bite out of Nike apparel, okay? Not the shoe business, but the apparel business. And because on the shoe front, Nike dominates. But the apparel business, which actually has greater margins, that's where they're really, being taken to lunch by Under Armour, or whatever the expression is. And so that was the issue. And the urban youth are the ones who buy, brand named apparel. And so that was why they were doing it. And they did make the calculated decision. Fuck Whitey. We need the black the black urban kids, or the urban people of color, in that lovely phrase.
Well, that was my favorite. They knew that. I think that's been the urban market's been like a euphemism word since I think at least the
70s,
early 2000s, or even the 70s. I know 70s. It's been around for a while. 70s. I remember it for a very long time. Yeah. No. It's an easy way of saying black people, or frankly any minority at this point.
I remember hearing it. I mean, I personally hearing it when I was a kid in the 70s, and I was like, "Who's urban?" I didn't know what the word urban meant.
And my white mother said, "You are not."
Because I lived in a suburb. I was suburban. It was just full of white people. Because I remember growing up in Southern California. There was just I grew up in Northridge, and there was I remember this Asian family just down the street from me, and that was it. Everybody else was white. Yeah, everybody else was white. No black people, not a one. And we were the only quote unquote Latino people. But I always got the. I mean, retrospectively, I always got the feeling that we got a pass on that because we spoke correct English without an accent. My parents actually spoke with a slight British accent because they learned English in Great Britain. And so I think we got a pass because of that, because we spoke like just regular Americans, So anyway, the news, going back to the news, the Weekly Bile, because that's the name of this episode. So the Serena Williams and the racism shit, and I
saw a little bit of. Oh, sorry, you go ahead.
No, you go.
I saw a little bit of clamor online. Did Abernathy show up on Tucker's show? Abernathy being Stormy Daniels' lawyer.
Avenanti.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
Avenanti.
Oh, and the greatest fucking own ever happened on that fucking episode.
I think I saw this own, but you tell it.
Okay, no, it was the greatest fucking own ever. Avenanti was saying something, and something about porn came up, and you know, Tucker Carlson said something along the lines of like, "Yeah, I'm into humiliation porn. That's why I watch you on CNN."
That is a very good line. Yes, exactly.
Oh, and it was right off the cuff. It was like unprepared, you know, because Tucker, you know, he's the Jim of TV, you know, because goddamn was that a fucking good line. I mean, that was just beautiful, and he just nailed the shit out of Avenanti, and I mean, he just completely unmanned him. Okay, you don't recover from a line like that. Okay, especially when it's just so cavalierly said. Actually, I'm trying to remember if it was Avenanti or somebody else. I mean, Tucker's had a big week. You know, Tucker is our guy. He's definitely our guy. He's woke as fuck. He is clearly our guy. You know, when I say our guy, I'm talking hardcore, you know, real conservatives, real right-wingers. He is our guy, okay? I mean, if he ran for office, I'd fucking vote for the guy. You know, whatever office he's running for, he's got my vote. You know what I'm saying?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, so there was that, and well, there was a Kavanaugh confirmation. Oh man.
Yeah, what's the little mystery scoop that we
okay,
got done?
so Feinstein, you know, they grilled him more than any other Supreme Court nominee ever. Okay, more hours spent, more questions fielded than any candidate ever. Okay, and here's the thing: see, the guy is squeaky clean. Okay, I mean that's the thing about the guy. He's boringly clean. Okay, no mistress. Never used the N-word. You know, he's like, and also I didn't realize this. I think he's Opus Dei, which is very interesting because he would be the first.
Very nice.
That is.
I have been saying nonstop that I want to maintain the, you know, there's only Jews and Catholics on the Supreme Court. All the Catholics are the conservatives, save for the fake ones, Sotomayor. All the Jews are left wing. I want to extend and exceed the Catholic control of the Supreme Court, and I want the hard right old Catholics, because I would love if Brett Kavanaugh gets nominated, as soon as he gets the nomination confirmed and he's on the court, I want him to get to the microphone and says, "Okay, listen up, you colored motherfuckers. You're kicking ass and we're taking names now." Yeah. And he pulls up his fucking pant leg and there's the Chalice, spikes, digging right into his fucking legs. It's like, this is old school Catholicism, motherfucker.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, look, here's the thing with Kavanaugh, right? See, number one, he's replacing Anthony Kennedy, right, who was the big swing vote. And the problem is that everyone knows that Kavanaugh is hard right. There's no question about it. But there's also this issue. See, number one, he is Anthony Kennedy's protege. If they fling shit at him too hard, Anthony Kennedy himself will come out and swing for the guy, okay? Because he clerked for him. He mentored him over the decades, okay? So Kavanaugh is not unqualified. There's no way you can touch him insofar as his qualifications for the job. Insofar as his personal morals, he's got this lovely wife, these lovely daughters, right? I don't know if you saw the press conference where he was introduced, but he said some quip about his daughters, a very gentle quip. I think the line was he introduced his two daughters, and he said that his older daughter loved sports and loved to read, and his younger daughter loved sports and loved to talk. And it was like a little laugh. And he gave his youngest daughter, the one he'd made the quip about, like a little high five kind of thing, or a little pound or something like that. And it was clear.
It's like fatherly stuff.
Yeah, and it was obvious. I mean, anybody could see that the guy has an awesome relationship with his kids. He's a family man, right? And he helps the poor and all this good shit, right? And so you can't touch him on a personal basis, right? So Feinstein, literally at the 11th hour, comes out and she says that she has a letter, and she gave it to the FBI. And the FBI, in very short order, said there's nothing to investigate here. It's, they didn't say what it was, but they said there's nothing to investigate with this letter. And the rumor, the breaking story is that the letter is written by some woman in high school, or when he was in high school, who claimed that He and another boy, I forget the name of the other man, sexually assaulted her. Like pinned her down and basically dry humped her.
Did they put her on a pinball machine too? Jesus Christ!
Exactly. For those of you who don't know, that's from The Accused. That's a movie from the 80s. Yeah.
Jodie Foster. It's what made Jodie Foster a lesbian.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So anyway, so there's this letter, right? And here's the thing: the other guy, because when it's a he said she said, it could be true, could be not. If you're identifying two guys, and the one guy is being nominated for a Supreme Court justice, and the other guy is a very respectable guy, and he comes out right away and says, this is so much bullshit. And then, get this, a letter comes out of 65 women who knew Kavanaugh in high school, who said he was a gentleman all the time. He was just a good Catholic boy, right? And it came out spontaneously, by the way. That was interesting. It wasn't organized. It was apparently like the Catholic organization, alumni of because he went to a boys' school. I don't know which one, frankly, but I'm guessing that there must have been like some sister school. It usually is the case, where there's a boys' Catholic school, and right next door is the girls' Catholic school, right? And so they mingle and socialize, and everybody knows everybody else, even though they're technically two separate schools, right? So anyway, it apparently spontaneously 65 girls from high school who knew the guy came out and said this is so much bullshit. And of course, the other obvious fact, this happened, the guy's 53 years old, right? So he was in high school 35 years ago, if not more. So nothing ever came up for 35 fucking years. And right when he's sewing up his Supreme Court nomination process, this comes out. Oh, come on. Don't tell me that it's so much bullshit.
Yeah, it's precisely because it's let alone the however many years since high school. But then she would say to yourself like, well, it took me that long to remember it.
Oh yeah.
And it was on the TV, and I'm like, oh, was that him, the man who brutally abused me?
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure for sure until it looked like he was about to get the nomination. Then my mind cleared.
Yeah.
And then I was convinced. Exactly. Yeah, that's very believable.
Yeah.
Very believable.
Come on.
Yeah, I feel like Columbo. It's like, one more thing, ma'am.
Yeah, no, the thing is, see, if there had been even a whisper of something like this, it would have been caught decades ago, because this guy has been in federal government for fucking decades, okay? When he was White House counsel, if this shit had been anywhere, if there'd been any kind of official record of such a thing, or any kind of contemporaneous record, or even the allegation, not even an official record, but some allegation somewhere, it would have surfaced and it would have torpedoed him, okay? That it comes out at the last minute after this incredibly grueling experience.
I saw a tweet. Saw a tweet today where Vox basically wrote to the effect of, well, if after this Kavanaugh gets nominated, it shows you how little we've progressed since 1991 and Clarence Thomas. Like, are you fucking kidding me? It's like, at least Anita Hill had the courage to stand by her fucking conviction.
Yeah.
And say what the fuck happened. And it was when he was on the job, not high school gossip.
Yeah.
That you haven't even confirmed shit.
Yeah.
Vox, oh God.
Yeah, well, forget about Vox. Here's the issue about the woman. See, she refuses to make her name public. Okay? What does that fucking tell you? Okay? It's so much bullshit. Juanita Broderick, who really was raped or alleges to have been raped by Bill Clinton back in the day, she came out in public back in the day. I mean, she made a big stink about it back in the day. And yeah, the Hillary and the whole goon squad that she had, the Hillary land, yeah, they said that she was crazy, this, that, the other. It was all true in the end, right? I mean, the Paula Jones shit, the Lewinsky shit, it was all true. And, they tried to, shove it under the rug. And here, they're just, anonymous allegations of something that happened at least 35 years ago. And naming somebody else, an independent person, who swears up and down that nothing of the sort ever happened. And that guy apparently is incredibly pissed because Ronan Farrow, who seems to have been spearheading this whole story, misquoted him or quoted him in a way that it seemed as if the guy was giving a very milquetoast denial, almost like a no comment kind of thing. When the guy was like, well, he caught me by surprise because I'd never even heard of this shit. And I'm like, absolutely no, I mean, look, if they keep on pushing this narrative, it's just going to blow up in their face because they're the third person. There's a saying I always have: if two people know a secret, it's no secret at all. If three people know a secret. Might as well just broadcast it on the evening news, for crying out loud. Because, no way does something this serious escape notice for this long. No way. And if one of the guys who claims to have been a part of this or saw it happen is saying that this is so much bullshit, I mean, where else do you go here? Okay, then you're living in fantasy land. And I think that the Dems are just, they're pulling out whatever they can to stop the guy.
I'll tell you where they go from this. They make sure that they have enough formaldehyde in Ruth Bader Ginsburg's corpse to make sure that people are still convinced she's not dead.
Yeah. I think that that's their thing. They're fucking freaking the fuck out. Okay, because really, the actuarial table, let's put it this way, of the Supreme Court is not in the favor of the Democrats. Not at all. So anyway, there was a Kavanaugh thing. There's Hurricane Florence that they are trying to make into a big deal, but it was devastating. 300,000 people, 400,000 people without electricity, which is a bad thing. But it happens. Big fucking deal. It's just,
a few people died, I think. Last I checked, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sorry for them. I mean no disrespect to the people who died in such an event, but it's just one of those horrible things. Like I heard that some guy was like trying to take care of his dogs, and the wind blew him and knocked him out, and he died from the head injury. I mean, it's just bad. But there have been some funny memes. For instance, there's this one video going around Twitter right now of this reporter, right, leaning into the wind, and the gusts of wind, and he's leaning with all his strength, and right behind him, two guys are just walking along.
They're just normally walking. He's like, these are the powerful gusts. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to make it this time. This is really getting into me. And the two guys just walking gingerly, or not even gingerly, walking, carefree. Yeah. Into the sunset. Well,
Oh yeah, didn't you see the one of the raft? That was fucking funny. There are these people.
I
in a
did not
raft.
see the raft.
Okay, there's people in a raft, and they're like people walking besides them. Okay, it's like pointless to be in the raft. I mean, like just walking along. Yeah, because there's water, but it's not something that you need a raft to to navigate. You could just walk, right? It was fucking funny, and everybody's blaming Trump. And I just have one thing to say, it's good to know that not only did we elect a president, but we also elected a weather god who could inflict a hurricane at will, because
exactly. I mean, I know their argument is, his policies promote, global warming and whatnot. But the thing is, so the first hurricane we have that, of the season, there's literally only been one, and it's within the season. And it's to be expected. It happens, and suddenly, well, this is just affirmation. When we had 20 hurricanes in 1 week, maybe I'll give you some credence there. Yeah. But it's like
if
the
we had
first
20
hurricanes that we expect.
If we had
hundreds of fucking, since the fucking beginning of the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if we had 20 hurricanes that would hit, blue states. Well, now we're talking. Now it's Trump doing the damage, right?
The hurricane literally, it's like, this state voted for Trump. It ascends into the atmosphere like on angel's wings, and then it says,
no, better yet, it has Southern California weather forever.
Exactly. It has, and then it looks at the hurricane maintains itself in the high atmosphere, looks at Massachusetts and says, bingo, motherfuckers, and it goes down.
Yeah, something like that. Oh, man, these people, they're so just fucking nuts, man. They're just so fucking crazy. But anyway, look, they are having a shit fit. Oh, yeah, and they're saying that Trump misrepresented the hurricane that hit Puerto Rico, and who gives a shit? It's all Trump all day long. They're having a fucking freak out, okay? That lying bitch, Julia Salazar, who is running for some state office in New York. She won. Mm-hmm. She won, and what's his name? Cuomo also won against Cynthia Nixon. That was that must have been a crooked election. I'm positive that. Do
you know what the I'm looking up the numbers for the Cynthia Nixon one because I really am curious to see what Cuomo's numbers.
That guy looks so fucking shifty. Okay, and we have gotten to a point where people are more than happy to vote for a woman, and nobody's saying, "Oh, she's a woman, so I'm not going to vote for her." Bullshit. Okay, so what it is that I have no proof for this. This is idle speculation, but if somebody were to come to me and say that what's his name, Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, stuff the ballot somehow, or shift the election, I'd be like, tell me something I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Because it's just too obvious. It's just too. I think that there's something there. And oh yeah, and the other piece of news, did you hear that John Kerry approached behind the back of the Trump administration Iran, and was basically telling the Iranians, coaching the Iranians how to handle the Trump administration. And Mike Pompeo is, he's spitting fire right now. He is pissed as fuck, with good reason, because his predecessor is basically, fucking with his, fucking his mojo.
I seem to remember people really quoting a Logan Act about how this is inappropriate and whatnot. I forget who said it. I think John Kerry himself said it, right?
Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah, I really would love it for them to, like, in the middle of the night, John Kerry gets swift-boated into a limo, and in there is Michael Flynn, who responds, "Hi, guy."
Yeah.
Just takes him away.
Yeah. No. The thing is, see, this is action. I think it's actionable. I think if it comes out to be true, I think that Kerry could be potentially in a lot of trouble. Okay, and for what exactly? What exactly? I mean, what the fuck was the guy thinking? Okay, you are a former Secretary of State. You cannot be independently negotiating with a sovereign country. No fucking way. You cannot. Okay, I mean, he can get into a lot of trouble.
We're not even talking about, which, like I said, even in the worst, theoretically the worst case ever accused of Flynn, it was simply the admitted incoming administration that's already been elected. I always say, incoming administration, they have a right to talk to people. This is like, no, there's no fucking election to dispute. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because the whole issue of the Logan Act with them talking to the Russians before the Trump administration had been sworn in. I mean, look, technically it is a violation, but you'd sort of like ignore it because they're going to be running the show anyway in just a few weeks, right? So who gives a shit? A former Secretary of State? No, he's a foreign agent. It's just, what the fuck are you doing? Okay. I think that he should be prosecuted. I think that I think he might be prosecuted because John Kerry is not the swiftest guy, and he's not very good at cementing political loyalty. He doesn't have a loyal band behind him, and I think that this behavior. I think that enough people would say, something, just throw him to the wolves, and as a distraction, because I think also Trump is. I think that he's aching for a bone to chew on, right?
Yeah.
And
I certainly hope it gets done swiftly, and I want to see how many times I can use the phrase "Swift" and John Kerry in the same sentence.
And boat. Don't forget boat.
And boat.
Oh, and coward. I mean, I despise the guy. I just.
I remember voting. I think I may or may not have voted for him in 2004. I cannot remember.
Oh, man, I think less of you right now. I thought you were a decent man.
I also think I remembered not wanting to continue the Bush administration, but that was neither here nor there.
No, the Bush administration was a disaster. Yeah, but anyway, no. Going back to this, on a serious note, this is potentially, very damaging, and I think Trump must be dying to have somebody that he can just waste, that he can repeatedly and publicly, rape to his heart's content, because he doesn't have anybody that he can just bash the shit out of, and he wants that, he needs that, you can tell. But anyway, the election, the thing that drives me a little bit nuts, and you drives you nuts, it drives everybody nuts, is that Republicans don't seem to have the killer instinct, when it comes to the moment of truth. They don't have the killer instinct to just go there and waste their opponent. It's so frustrating.
Yeah, they don't want to win. I mean, let's be honest, they really don't. I mean, remember in 2010 and all of the years that built up from the Obama administration of when the Democrats lost all those seats, it wasn't standard Republicans who won that. It was all the Tea Party kind of more energized Republicans. The establishment just wants to have their job and keep it going. So to me, of course they either want to lose because they have secret sympathy with the other side, or they want to lose simply because the act of fighting for a victory is too fucking painful.
Yeah. they tend to have that whole Bush Senior edition version of like noblesse oblige, and you shouldn't look like you're trying too hard and stuff like that. And they have that thing. It drives me a little bit nuts because they have this election in the fucking bag. The Democrats are looking more and more insane by the hour. They're doing all kinds of crazy shit. They're putting up all kinds of crazy people in their own party. They're nuts. They're losing their fucking mind, and the media is just going crazy. So it's just...
This is why you combine the craziness of the Democrats and the weakness of the Republicans. I fear the outcome that we're going to get in this midterm is what I've been saying all along is the worst possible outcome, which is stalemate. Which is the Democrats gain a little bit, the Republicans hold on in other places, and effectively we're just in an even worse position where nobody feels like they have the true upper hand, and so the constant bitching is just going to keep going.
I think so.
That's my prediction right now.
I suspect that you're probably right, that it's going to be like a stalemate. The Democrats might go so far as to recapture the House. Nathan, what's his name? The guy from the prediction, Silver, right? Nathan Silver? Yep. Or Nate Silver?
Nate Silver.
Yeah,
or Nate Bronze, as some of us have come to call him.
Yeah. Nate No Medal. Yeah. Anyway, that guy, he's saying that, the Democrats are 80%. Like, he throws these percentages out there, right? Like he's like all scientific and shit. He's just grabbing these numbers out of his ass, Or, let me rephrase that. As I saw that in a lot of like venture capital things, he's basically coming up with numbers out of his ass and then grinding them through an Excel sheet until it looks, sort of like serious, but it's still bullshit. There's a saying in Spanish, an Excel sheet can put up with anything. And yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, you can massage numbers. All he's doing is poll of polls. And when you're doing a poll of polls, at the end of the day, everybody can say how quantitative you are, but you are making weights when you're averaging numbers, and when you make weights, you're making a choice. You're making a decision. It's a qualitative assessment.
Yeah.
Don't let anybody kid you. Yes, your success rate certainly speaks to the quality of it, but that doesn't negate the fact that you're making a qualitative assessment. You're taking a guess like every other motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly. And the worst part is that, on the big guesses, he guessed wrong. What was it, like 99.999% that Hillary would win? And here we are. Come on. Anyway, going back to the midterms. Yeah, I think it's going to get worse, and it's looking to get nastier and nastier. The stupid motherfucker Republicans, right? This is the other thing. They want to hold off on vote on funding the wall until after the midterms. Okay, and what the fuck? It's just so incredibly frustrating. But at the same time, I think that it actually helps Trump because. See, the media, once again, is just missing the big story. Trump is going whole hog on the whole rallies thing, right? And he's going jobs, 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 trade, 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 right? By the way, I'm reading this book, Rendezvous with Oblivion by Thomas Frank. Thomas Frank, for those of you who don't know, is a lefty op-ed writer for The Guardian and some other things. He is the founding editor of The Baffler. I think he founded it, as a matter of fact. I'm not sure. But anyway, Thomas Frank is just, he's a gadfly, smart guy, left wing. But he's the only motherfucker who understands Trump's appeal. He is the only lefty guy who understands that people didn't vote for him because they're racist. They voted for him because they don't have jobs or they have a very, very tenuous hold on their position, their financial position. And they are losing hope for not only themselves, but for their children. That's why they voted for the guy, okay? It's not because they're racist. It's because they're desperate, okay? And he's the only one who gets this. He's the only one who gets that the Democrats made the cynical decision during the Clinton administration that the working class had no place to go but them, and so ignored them and went after yeah. Go ahead.
I know exactly why he's going to make that case because I remember now where I recall the name. He wrote "What's the Matter with Kansas?"
Yeah.
So this was written, funny enough, after or around the time of the 2004 election. Maybe it came out right before it. And his point was, hey, look, you used to have a lot of left-wing populism or populism in general in Kansas, in the Midwest, and all these other places. This is what gives, and they've gone to conservatism. And the point was that the left-wing parties had lost that populist connection, which frankly was where they were fucking founded.
Yeah.
And his whole point was, you're going to be dangerous if you lose that.
Yeah.
And so I think he's noticed this shift now to the Republicans being more obviously populist as a natural evolution of how the Democrats lost that connection.
Exactly right. And so anyway, Trump is going out there on rallies, right? And the thing is, see, the whole trade war with China thing, it's just banging away, which plays to Trump's strength, because the mainstream media, because I'm totally on board with what Thomas Frank is saying. I think that's where the real issue is, where the what's the meme now? The 56 percenters, which is 56% apparently is the percentage of white people in America by some certain time. Not at this time, I believe, but in the future, right? And so it's becoming the meme of the dissident right, of the far out right, the online right, that we're part of the 56%. But anyway, he's going out there with these huge rallies. I mean, they're enormous. And he sells out every time. Actually, I don't know if he's charging people for this shit or not. But be that as it may, I wouldn't be surprised, frankly. But be that as it may, he's going to these to these rallies. And by the way, there's a meme going around Twitter that compares the size of the rallies of Justin Trudeau and Donald Trump, and it's absurd, right? Because Trudeau can't even fill out a high school basketball stadium, right? And Trump
pretty soon he won't be able to fill out the whole country when he keeps telling old little French women, your racism has no place in Canada.
Yeah, I know. I mean, just that was despicable, really. It was just really despicable. But anyway, so Trump is going out there, barnstorming, and I have no doubt that he's going to amp it up as the midterms get nearer, and it could be that we have another big surprise, okay? Because he's a very effective campaigner. He just knows what his audience wants to hear, and he gives it to them. I mean, in all his semi-autistic New York land developer way, he gives them what they want. I can't really tell about the election. The only thing I do know is that I think that the Democrats will lose a couple of Senate seats because the math is simply not on their side. The only one I'm really concerned about is Ted Cruz, because the mainstream media is telling me something, but I don't know the facts on the ground insofar as the Ted Cruz Beto O'Rourke race is concerned. Do you happen to have any insight on that?
I don't know. I think from what I gather, it could be a tight one for Ted.
Yeah.
And I think, frankly, the demographics in Texas may be impacting this. I mean, as we all know, the chance of Texas going purple or blue in the near term, or let's say midterm.
Yeah.
By midterm, I don't mean the election. I mean in time series. Yeah. Is very possible. And that could. I mean, I don't know. I would love to see Zodiac back in the Senate. I think he's an interesting character, and he's a good guy with a gun and a knife. Let me tell you.
I'm not the Zodiac. And even if I were, you can't prove it.
I am not the Zodiac, as he adds the cipher underneath.
I'm not the Zodiac, and even if I were, I'd never tell you. Yeah, or something like that. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, that was basically the week in Bile. It's been just one shit show after the next.
I would love to tell you that I was shocked by any of this, but unfortunately, I've reached the dark conclusion that I suspected, which is, so it was just another week.
Yeah.
Man, it's so bad that I've gotten so numb to all of this.
Oh, and by the way, there was one funny story that came out of Spain. Here's the headline, and the headline tells it all. Migrant nearly loses penis after kicking dog in Spain.
Well, maybe he should have washed that penis.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, and in our neck of the woods, something funny is going to happen. The Sargon Medicare death match is amping up, and they are having competing live streams on Sunday, and so that is going to be interesting. I'm going to stay up late because when these fucking live streams happen, they're like 5 p.m. Eastern, right? But that's like midnight for me. So it's going to be like a hassle to listen to it because I go to sleep early because of just kids and, life as it is. And so it'll be funny. It'll be funny to watch these two go at it because Medicare is going to basically do a stream. He said that he has decided that he's going to do a stream a week about the skeptics and that he's just going to hammer away at them. Okay. And I'd like to see that. And basically, Sargon insanely, he said that he had the docs, or he intimated that he had the docs of Jim, of Mr. Medicare. And, he essentially intimated that he was going to release it. Okay. What he did was that he set up this live stream and he called it Hello Jim, with a picture of Medicare on it. And beneath that, a bunch of links to Kiwi Farms and the alleged docs, the current docs, but we all know that is not true, of Mr. Medicare. For those of you who don't know, Mr. Medicare is an online personality who's anonymous, and he's very, very funny. He's very, very sharp, and he's caused, in his time, a lot of chaos on the internet, and it's been very funny chaos. That's why he's basically the jester of our neck of the woods of the internet. And he made fun of Sargon because Sargon went to the European Parliament for the whole Article 11 and 13 vote, right? And he went in a suit, and the suit was not tailored, and it looked like just some off the rack from a really cheap store, right? And it was a black short sleeved shirt with a tie. Okay, he looked kind of pathetic, but here was the worst part. See, that he put out a message on Facebook directed at Jim saying, "Oh, I'm going to go in a suit. Jim, you probably don't even own a suit." And Medicare just made so much hay with that statement because it was absurd. You didn't hear this?
I got intonations of this.
Yeah.
But you don't even own a suit, Jim.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously.
It was just absurd. It was an absurd quip or banter or whatever you want to call it. It was laughable, right? Because it really was. And, Medicare made hay of that and just thought it was just funny as hell and just teased him relentlessly. And Sargon snapped and set up this stupid Sunday live stream deliberately because Medicare had always said that he was going to do this Sunday stream, right? And so Sargon wanted to compete with him. I put out a tweet that got 20,000 views, for crying out loud, basically saying that this was a huge mistake. That I said that Sargon checkmated him. So let me read you the tweet that I made that got all these views because it was so goddamn funny. And okay, hang on just a second. Here we go. And just so that you know, read the Sunday streams. Sargon checkmated himself. 1, if he doxes Jim, he'll be hated. 2, if he claims he was just kidding, he'll be dismissed. 3, if he banters at Jim, he'll be ridiculed because everybody knows that Jim is a better banterer than Sargon. And 4, he'll get fewer viewers than Jim, therefore he'll look weak. And that's basically what's going to happen. He's going to get the shit kicked out of him. And for what? What was the purpose of it? It was really a remarkable turn of events in this whole Medicare Sargon death match. Because we got to call it like we see it. This is a death match, and only one or the other is going to survive this. And I think, right now, I put my money on Medicare. I give Medicare odds 5-1 that he's going to destroy Sargon. Not in this Sunday stream. I'm saying like in general, in the overall death match that we're seeing, because this is going to go on for months. I think
it's certainly going to be Thunderdome, and I guess if any of them is going to be likely to be Max Rokachansky, it's going to be Jim. In fact, it'd be funny if Jim is revealed in the docs to be our good friend Mel Gibson. It would certainly put a wonderful bow on everything, would it not?
Yeah. No, I think it's insane. I think it's really fucking insane what Sargon is doing. Oh, I got heat from Sargon for this shit. He screamed at me in his War Plan Purple Twitter account. It's gonna be funny. It's because he shit all over my assessment, right? But see, he didn't counter any of the points I made, and that's the point. See, what's interesting in this week, and the reason I'm bringing this up, is that Sargon has been on this incredible rant on Twitter, online in general, just fighting with people all over the place. He's going after Wild Smile, which is, those of you who don't know, he's a great guy, great content. He's a medium to smaller size channel. He's about 50, 70,000 subscribers, I believe. I honestly have forgotten, but he's a great guy, and he used to be on good terms with Sargon. On very good terms, as a matter of fact. And a couple of times Sargon recommended his channel. But now they're clearly at loggerheads because Sargon is just alienating everybody because he's just so goddamn arrogant. So goddamn arrogant and so blind and so impulsive in his decisions. And it's really interesting to see this happen, to see a guy who he's so industrious, because you got to give Sargon credit. He's a very industrious guy. He pumps out a lot of content. He keeps his audience happy with the content that they've come to expect from him. But he loses his shit over too many small things.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think how we should make a peace offering eventually after everybody calms down is Jim and Sargon should show up on Norm Macdonald's show. That will be on Netflix before it gets canceled because he had the audacity to be empathetic with a woman who lost her job.
Yeah.
And that's how we're all going to kind of make peace. And we'll have a big fucking hug fest, and then we'll all go under the covers and sob.
Yeah, I think so. We could have a group cry. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you heard about the Norm Macdonald thing. I thought that was absurd. I mean...
Like I said, it was funny to me that Norm's response to, like I said, have empathy for the woman who lost her job, and the monkey. Yeah, I'm going to call her the monkey. Not only didn't lose a goddamn thing, but probably benefited a lot from it. Yeah, he was fine, and then they shamed him for that. And then I think they shamed him again because he said you'd have to have Down syndrome not to have empathy with the people who are subject to sexual abuse. And then people said, "Oh, Down syndrome." But the worst part was that Norm did what I would hope that he didn't do, which was go on Joy Behar's show and supplicate himself and said, "Oh, I did a bad thing." And I'm sure that's Netflix telling him to do that. Yeah. Which is unfortunate because, as I've said before, I think Norm's show will demonstrate what the next generation of the late night talk show has to be. And I think he will be the one that finally figures it out. They will try to break him for that because he is not openly in line with the politics of all the other dipshits who had their late night show. But the joke is that not being in line is what will ensure his success.
When's his show coming out?
I honestly don't know. It should be in the next few weeks, but he's recorded.
No, actually, it's soon. It's soon, like in the next few days.
Oh, good. Yeah. Because honestly, the episodes I'm most interested in are, I know everybody wants to probably think of all the other funny folks, but it's Jane Fonda and Judge Judy are the two episodes I mostly want to see. And I really, 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 really hope that Norm brings up, even if it's in jest, Vietnam to Jane Fonda.
Hey, as we're recording this, it's September 15th, and it was released on September 14th. So you know
what I'm watching tonight.
Yeah, so you should be able to see it. Man, that's terrific. That's fantastic. I mean, yeah, I'm definitely gonna watch it. I don't have Netflix, so I'll just illegally download it. Yeah, you know how it is. I'm here in lawless East Ukraine, so everything goes. We just live for the moment. We have orgies every night because we know that tomorrow death could be knocking at our door. So. Yeah, that's.
And Paul Manafort comes by every other week to shake things up a bit.
Yeah, that's the final bit of news. That Manafort struck a deal with the Mueller investigation, and I wonder what that entails. I'd love to have read the proffer that his lawyers gave to Mueller.
Oh, I saw in the documents when they tried to say what he was doing that was wrong in Ukraine, all of that interference. And you know what he was doing? The exact opposite of what everybody accuses Trump of doing, which is being a Russian patsy. Look at what Manafort was advocating in the Ukraine, that we, the West, cannot let Ukraine come under the boot of Russia. That was the thing he was saying. And like I said, if anybody's paying attention, they would know, hang on, this doesn't jive with the bullshit we're accusing Trump of doing or inspiring and being a Putin patsy. Nobody cares because they're too stupid to read the details. Yeah. And like I said, it's all a fucking joke, my friend. If there's any honesty in the Mueller investigation, though, Manafort should be cooperating to go against Podesta, who also did the exact kind of same things as Manafort did.
Yeah, but that's asking too much. Your honesty from the Mueller investigation? Come on, grow up. There's no honesty there. No honesty among thieves. These people, I just think that they're scum. I've come to despise Mueller because he's just... he knew from the get-go that the whole Russia thing was just bullshit, and he was keeping alive the investigation just for political damage against Trump. He's part of the whole deep state cabal that want him gone, no matter how hard no matter what it takes. There's like intimations now that there's going to be some sort of coup, and I think also there might be something to it if the Republicans win. If let me rephrase it, if people that Trump supported win big in the midterm election, there's going to be another shit fit. There's going to be another big shit fit. And I think that the deep state is going to start thinking of serious things. Fucking Robert Reich. Look, I have to admit this. This is a hobby horse I'm having or a moment of incredible disillusion. I always thought that Robert Reich was a straight arrow. Okay. He never bought the Clinton bullshit because he knew the Clintons when he was way back when he was a kid, when he was in college, right? So he's known them since forever. And he knew that and he actually, I think, dated Hillary Clinton for a while. And he knew that they were full of shit. And, I always thought that he was a straight arrow, but he's been vocally arguing about the 25th Amendment, about removing the president because of being unfit for office. And, he's really advocating this. And I have to admit that for me, that was a huge disillusionment of the guy. I cannot take him seriously. I cannot respect the guy who wants to thwart the popular will just because he doesn't like the guy who's running the show. I mean, I know I'm sounding childish or something of at this age in my life, of this stage in my life, of still being disillusioned by people. But to tell you the truth, I'm glad I always have that, because I honestly, honest to God, thought that he was a better man than it turns out that he is, because this is insane. I don't know if you heard anything about that.
Well, no, you can't. You can never expect to outgrow the idea that there are people who you respect, and even if you know that most people are not worthy of that respect, the truth of the matter is that just makes those people you do respect even more valuable. And when they go down paths you didn't expect, it hurts even more. There's just no way out of that, unfortunately. I don't think that makes you childish.
Yeah, I suppose so. But look. What do you think of Robert Reich? I mean, Robert fucking Reich, he was like a decent guy.
I don't know what to think of him because I can't see down below 4 feet even.
That was a mean crack, but true. Yeah. No, I mean, come on. It's just crazy, But there.
Robert, I lost respect for Robert Reich when he was just really nice and tight with the Young Turks, and he is, and he has been for a while, and I've lost respect for him since then.
Yeah, the Young Turks, I remember the first time I caught wind of them, way, way back. I mean, this is, I don't know how many years ago, but it was a while ago. They seemed all right, but then they just, they're fucking nuts. But, okay, look, these people, they are as they are, and yeah, we're moving towards civil war time. I mean, it's increasing here because this political polarization is it's how can I put it? There's always been political polarization because that's the nature of politics. But as of late, it's just becoming existential. It's the very existence of each other is contingent on victory. And it's not that, okay, we're going to fight, we might win or lose, and if we lose, we'll fight another day. No, we're going to fight, and we're going to try to kill each other. We're going to try to get rid of each other. Yeah, I think that the Civil War is coming. So, okay. Mm-hmm. So on that black pill note, well, we call the show the Weekly Bile. There's a reason for that. So we might as well just end on a depressing black pilled note and break out the cyanide.
All I can say is even though, having the long hours this week was certainly depressing in its own right, the lack of knowledge of the news certainly was something to enjoy. Now I have the knowledge of the news. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. So anyway, so this has been the Coach and Benway show. This has been the Weekly Bile episode. And Dr. Benway, as always, I will leave you with the final word.
Well, sometimes we do things that just don't make no sense.
And on that cheerful note, We bid you a fond farewell, and we will catch you next time.
Later.